Hi everyone, it's Rory Ryan at Baylor Law. Welcome to Jurisdiction 101. This very short, very simple collection of videos is designed to help bridge the gap of backgrounds people have when they enter our executive L.L.M program. So for those of you here watching, welcome from the L.L.M program. Many of you who engage in the forum fight consistently, who battle between state and federal court, will find very little useful in this sequence of videos. And that's why I did it in the 101 format. It's an extra set of videos, something I recorded that we aren't dedicating class time to, but if someone finds herself or himself confused or lacking a background, hopefully you can go back to these videos and get just a little bit of grounding. So we'll move pretty quickly through it because, once again, you can always watch it twice. So if you're a first-year law student or someone who has not encountered the forum fight for so long that you feel like one, it helps to ask, who cares about the forum fight? Why do we care? I always like to talk to my 1L students about the difference between fairies and fights, right? Students, as they proceed, often tend to operate as though they're little magic fairies. They're discovery fairies that require the other side to turn over information. There are jurisdiction fairies that determine where a case should go. There are merits fairies that determine, well, these were the facts and this is the law and this is how they match up. But the reality, of course, is all of these things are subject to the fights of litigation. And those fights are shaped very differently based on where the litigation is. And so when we're talking about the forum fight, contrast these two scenarios. Number one, you're given a piece of paper in your torts class and told, this is what happened to Fred. Does Fred recover for negligence or product liability against Big Auto? Versus, hey, I'm injured and I'm in your office and I want to litigate this, and the other side says they didn't defectively design it, but we said they did, and they won't give me the information I want because I'm trying to sue them, and people don't tend to cooperate when that happens. And I'm kind of worried about this new statute that was passed, and it might eliminate my liability. All of those things are going to be fought about in a particular forum. And so this introductory sequence of videos is about describing the differences very briefly and generally between the forums, and then setting up the structure so we can learn how to better navigate it and to look at some of the modern issues. So we start to focus on, where's this litigation battle going to go down? We have to divide our thinking into two categories. The first bullet up on your screen about geography, that's not the focus of these intro videos or our executive L.L.M course. That's the geography of it. The doctrines of personal jurisdiction, venue, and to a lesser extent, forum nonconvenience. Those govern where in the country, or in the world, I suppose, can a court hail somebody in? Can the court require, demand that a defendant come to defend the lawsuit? I might want a vacation in Hawaii, but if I get in a car wreck in Texas with a Texas company and everything happened in Texas, I'm not going to be able to hail that person in Hawaii because no Hawaii court, state or federal, will have personal jurisdiction under the existing law. Not our focus. That's geography. That tells you where in the country geographically, plaintiff's home, defendant's home, site of the accident, maybe all three, can this litigation occur? Our focus is on the next question, the difference between the federal court system and the state court system. Assume we know basically where the case has to be filed. Assume we know basically what geographic region it's going to be. Then the question becomes, can we try this in state court? Can we try it in federal court? Can it be tried in both? And what would we prefer? So it's that question that we turn to for the rest of these slides and all of the rest of Jurisdiction 101. You wouldn't have to sit in my office very long before my phone would ring and some lawyer would be calling in some big dollar case wanting help with the forum fight. I want into federal court, or get me out of here. I'm a state court guy, get me out of federal court. Why? Why would it matter in a place like Waco, where the state courthouse and the federal courthouse are blocks apart, literally less than a mile apart, walking? On a hot day, you can make it and barely break a sweat. And yet people are willing to pay six figures, sometimes millions of dollars, just to fight about where to litigate between state and federal court. Why? What are the differences? real and perceived between the two courts? Well, there's one difference, and it can cut either way in your case. The judges and their qualifications. This is not to say all federal judges are smarter or better than their state counterparts, but look at the selection criteria. The selection criteria to be a federal judge is be nationally elite, is to be nominated by the President of the United States, confirmed and vetted by the senators in their committee, and then once again evaluated by the American Bar Association. In state court, we end up with a lot of fantastic state judges, but that is good fortune or wise discretion rather than job qualifications, because state judges are often elected in partisan elections like they are in Texas, and there is far more perceived political pressure on those judges. You also have the difference where federal judges have absolute life tenure and salary protection unless they do something that's impeachable, and in our history you can basically say keeping yourself out of federal prison will keep you from being impeached. So you've got the untouchable, can't be intimidated, answers to no one federal judge versus a state judge who in some places has to stand for election in a primary or maybe just a general or a retention election in just a few short months. Which is better? It's not my point. The point is people perceive in a given case that it will advantage them one way or another. Jury pool. Sometimes the question is, I'm in a small town in Texas where the jury pool is very small. If I can get the case into federal court in one of those bigger cities, the jury pool widens. And I've done my analysis of demographics, and once again, you end up with an incredibly practical reason why you care about this very academic topic of federal court jurisdiction. Maybe the most overlooked and sometimes the most important is the rules of procedure that govern you. We know from Erie that generally speaking, the substantive law of battery isn't going to change if you have a battery claim that you get to litigate or have to litigate in federal court. But the procedural rules do. If you have a large national corporation, even a regional corporation, and your cases are in federal court, you're operating pursuant to deadlines and rules and language that you're used to because they're all governed by the federal rules of civil procedure. Now you go to the Texas rules of civil procedure, and you know they're going to be kind of similar, but you're starting to look in the rules in the 400s and the 500s and thinking, wait a minute, I'm not sure I'm quite as comfortable here as I am in federal court. And for those who are well versed and who have been state court lawyers in small, rural, or county lawyers for a long time, the shift to federal court and its more rigid procedures often is quite a shock, and they have to hire or consult out. All right, so the rules of procedure and familiarity. And finally, I mentioned this only in passing. It's something that is beyond even our full course in litigation management, but at a very high level, people who are thinking through monster litigation know that sometimes the interaction of the choice of law and the law rules can actually result in a different law being applied in state and federal court. All right, but not more on that, and if you don't understand that, just leave it there as a placeholder. So what will we cover in Jurisdiction 102, 103, and 104? Hopefully in 5 to 10 minutes, we will cover in 102, limited federal jurisdiction versus general jurisdiction of state courts. What does that mean, and what is the overall structure of federal jurisdiction? Then we'll talk about removal and the games that parties play. Not in depth, that comes later in the course. This is just an overview so we can start thinking about the things we're going to encounter. Finally, how does concurrent jurisdiction litigation work? Our most advanced topic, what happens when we conclude this case could be litigated in both forums, and in fact it is being litigated in multiple forums at once. That will be the overviews of 102 through 104, and I will see you in a few minutes on 102.